Hey, Edurne. So nice to see these essays from you. I apologize for the delay. There was some sort of a problem in getting these through the system to come to my email. In any case, it's solved now. So let's take a look at what you wrote. Public libraries are necessary or useless. Let's see. Nowadays, some people might see public libraries as unnecessary and useless spaces that are not beneficial for the communities, whereas others might argue that public libraries are an important resource, singular here, no S. This essay will argue why public spaces such as libraries are indispensable and valuable for the well-being of the communities. Okay. I like this very much. It's lovely. There are two little things that I would change, and they all are in that last sentence. I don't think you need to say valuable and indispensable. Indispensable really carries the meaning that you're looking for. Absolutely fine without having the word valuable. It's actually more descriptive and more informative here. So I would have kept indispensable, gotten rid of this. And then it's not the communities, but it's communities in general. Okay. And the same thing here, are not beneficial for the communities. When you use the in front of a plural like this, there has to be a reason why. So that reason can be either that you've mentioned it before, and so we know which communities you're referring to, or we already know off the bat which communities that you're talking about, or it's something well known to us. Neither one is the case here. And so it's really a better idea to not put a the here. So, that are not beneficial for communities. Okay. And then they are indispensable for the well-being of communities. Again, you didn't need to use that the there. So that's one comment there I want to make. Okay, so let's keep going. Those against public libraries might argue that this type of building, singular, because it's one type of building, this type of building is not an effective way to store, not storaged, to store books and other printed materials. It is true that advances in technology have made possible a broader access to literacy as well as preserving and storing materials digitally. For example, comma here, people in rural areas that have no access to libraries are able to read all types of magazines and literary is the right word here, content just with the click of a button. In contraposition, it is arguable that libraries are more than buildings in which books are stored. Those buildings, careful, are usually community hubs in which people can come together, not just to borrow a book, but also connect with other people in the neighborhood. Okay, I don't know how I feel about this part of the paragraph. It doesn't really seem to make sense to me why you would include this. I mean, presumably up until this point, you're arguing why people say that libraries are a waste of space. And so that was all very clear. And then all of a sudden you decided to switch sides and talk about, yes, that might be true, but you're wrong. It didn't really feel particularly appropriate here for me. So I don't want to say much more about it right now. I'd like to go on to your next paragraph and see how you continue to develop, and then we can talk more about that. So in the same way, many people will discuss, you don't need a comma here, that maintaining those large buildings is a waste of public money and resources. Okay, I feel like you kind of said that already. That cost without the A could be largely, Ly, reduced with a D by transferring all the material into a digital format. Okay. It has to be taken into account that libraries not only foster literacy, but also create healthy communities and foster culture and creativity. Foster, careful. Foster literacy, foster culture. Use a different word. Moreover, they provide healthy communities which in the long run could save money from mental health resources. Okay. So what I've found here in this essay is that there's a problem with your central idea in your paragraphs. And this is essentially a coherence and cohesion problem. It really would have made a lot more sense for me if you had talked about this negative idea of libraries. So, in other words, why are people saying it's a waste of space? Explore all of those reasons in this first paragraph. And then in your second paragraph, explore all the reasons why this is ridiculous and we absolutely need public libraries. So, the result was that you didn't really have a clear central idea in each paragraph. And that's going to, again, lower your coherence and cohesion score. So yeah, that's a big deal here. Then there were some grammatical things. They weren't really a huge deal. I saw some lovely vocabulary, and that was really good. But I want you to have really, really clearly organized paragraphs. You're going to find that, yes, it will fall under coherence and cohesion, but it could certainly also sway task achievement as well. These two kind of many times go hand in hand. Let's see. And then I'm also going to tell you something else here. Your essay, your thesis sentence says that you will argue why these spaces are indispensable. So you never said that you're going to talk to us about why they may not be considered really important. You never mentioned that anywhere. All we know is that you're going to argue why they're indispensable. So I'm actually going to argue that perhaps you shouldn't have mentioned anything about the negatives at all. Okay. And just focused on the positives, which is what you talked about. If you wanted to do it like this, where you do talk about the negatives, you need to bring it up in your introduction. You have to let us know in your introduction what you plan to talk about. So the reader shouldn't have any real surprises, okay? So rather than saying this essay will argue why public spaces are indispensable, you could have said that this essay will address why this view about libraries exist and argue why these spaces are indispensable. So that would have made more sense. Then we would have been like, oh, okay, so we're going to hear about, both sides. We're going to look at it really rather holistically. And that would have been okay. But again, I wasn't really, really super happy with the way this worked out in practice in your paragraphs, because it just felt like it was rather uncohesive, incohesive, I guess is the word I want. So that was the problem there. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I hope you understand what the issue was. And now I want to go on to your task one here about a public park in the 20s and then today. Fascinating. Okay. See, so the maps illustrate the overall development of the garden park during two different periods. The first one depicts the space during 1920, and the latter, with a double T, portrays its actual layout. Okay, its actual layout today makes more sense. Overall, the park has been drastically changed by adding more features like a cafe, playground, underground parking, and an amphitheater. Fine. You didn't really need to go into all these details because when you start supplying details in your overview, it is no longer an overview and instead it's just a detailed paragraph. So keep some of that out. Instead, you could have just been more general. You could have said the park has been drastically changed by adding new features. That's it. You're done. So in detail, comma, the music stage has been replaced by an amphitheater, taking the majority of the space on the west side of the park. At the same time, comma, the water fountain in the middle of the park was removed and a new flower garden has been installed with seating areas around this. The new fish pond has replaced the glass house of the south end of the park, making some space for a playground on the northeast of the park. Northeast side feels better, where the old fish pond was located. Those that visit the park nowadays are able to access the new cafe, which replaced one of the flower gardens. The car access to the park has been improved by adding an underground parking on the southeast corner of the park. Okay. Many that visited the park in 1920 might not recognize the park nowadays. The only feature that has been kept is the two main entrances, as well as a flower garden on the northwest side of the park. Okay, I thought this was really quite good. And one of the reasons why I thought it was quite good is because I didn't actually have to refer to the map. I thought you did a really good job of describing it and talking about what changed. I thought it was very effective. So I was able to envision what you were talking about without actually looking at it. And so I was pretty happy with this task one. I thought that was good. So of the two that you've submitted today, I thought your task one was stronger than your task two, which means I want you to look a little more carefully at task two and what you need to do in order to produce a better and higher scoring essay. Okay? So I hope that that information gives you some food for thought and gives you some material to work with for your next set. So good luck to you, and I'll be looking forward to your next set of essays.